My jealous sister smashed my first trophy, swiped my college essay to claim my place, hijacked my wedding with a fake pregnancy, and had everyone cheering for her. So I cornered her at the clinic, shattered the illusion, and left her begging for forgiveness after the ultimate Uno reverse. I was 7 years old when my older sister Emma rejected me as a family member, all because school came pretty easy to me. Not just academically either, but the sporty side too, especially cheerleading. I remember coming home with a trophy from a competition I had won, and my sister was livid. She was the first one I told. "Look, Emma, look what I got!" But instead of accepting my hug, she took my trophy and literally threw it out the window. But 7-year-old me kept trying. It wasn't until I painted a picture and watched as she not only tore it into pieces, but painted a new one that looked just like it, that I finally gave up. But I never stopped wanting to be her best friend. I was 17 when she asked to read my college essay, and I thought it was finally happening. Emma wanted to bond with me. I had no reason to be suspicious because she was 2 years post-high school and had no intention of going to college, or so I thought. I was using the family computer to submit my application when I saw it. One tab left open. I skimmed through it and saw my essay had already been submitted, except not under my name, under Emma's. Tears started streaming down my face, but I didn't have time to cry. I only had 3 days left until the deadline closed, so I wiped my tears away and spent those 72 hours speed writing a completely new one. Long story short, I got accepted, but Emma didn't. That incident burned what was left of our sisterhood down to the ground. So after I moved out for college, I only saw her during the holidays, and even then, we'd barely talk. But I was still happy for her, because after that failed attempt, she started to turn her life around. From her Instagram, I could see that she had finally gotten her esthetician license and the summer body she always dreamed about. I wanted to reach out to congratulate her, but I wasn't even sure if she knew I followed her and didn't want her to block me. But 3 years later, she did it herself. It was my first day as a registered nurse, so I posted a photo of me and the other girls in the staff room. Immediately, she called me and asked why I didn't invite her to my college graduation. I told her the truth, that I didn't want her to sabotage it. There was silence for a while, and I swear I thought she hung up. But that's when she whispered a meek, "I'm sorry." An awful gut feeling washed over me, but I told myself that giving her a chance was the least I could do, and immediately said, "It's okay." "No, Ella, it's not. Are you still living in Chestnut Hill?" I told her yes, and she began insisting on buying me dinner at the local diner, just like old times. Every part of me wanted to say no, but my imagination was running wild. I thought of me and Emma, gossiping on a couch together, drinking lavender tea, having the friendship I always dreamed of. It was that same image that made me say yes. Our catch-up was actually pretty positive, but far from the image that I had imagined, because she spent almost 90% of the conversation talking, more like bragging, about every single positive thing she had done since we last talked. She started off by telling me about her eyebrow-threading business success and how she had learned to swim. But after an hour had passed, she even started bragging about how she had once donated a whopping 1% of her paycheck to charity. I didn't even get to talk about my role as a nurse, or how I had gotten engaged to the love of my life. But I thought I'd be a bad sister if I let that be the reason I cut her off. So at the end of her 3-hour-long monologue, I told her I forgave her. We decided that Friday was our day, and for the next few months, we spent every week doing one new thing together. Pottery class, museums, everything. So when my fiancé proposed, Emma being my maid of honor seemed like a no-brainer. In the months leading up to it, she helped me with everything. The wedding dress try-on, the invitations, even the flower picking. And despite her passive-aggressive comments about how it's so weird that I was the one getting married first, or how she'd look way better in a wedding dress, I never saw what was coming next. On the day of the wedding, everything went smoothly, and when my husband, Alan, said, "I do," I felt my eyes light up with a spark of joy I hadn't experienced since childhood. Even as we all sat down to eat, I was still smiling, and that's when I heard someone tapping a champagne glass with their fork. It was Emma. Immediately, her speech started off with how happy she was to be there, and how far she'd come. But then, things took a dark turn. She took out a stack of printed photos from her purse and started distributing them around the table. When I looked at it, my heart was filled with a darkness that rotted my soul. It was an ultrasound. "That's right, everyone, I'm pregnant," she announced. I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. Everyone gasped. Alan turned to look at me, and my acquaintances awkwardly clapped their hands together. I just stared at her and her completely flat stomach with an unwavering rage. My hand was shaking a little, but I managed to tap it with my spoon to get everyone's attention back. "Thank you, Emma, for that unexpected announcement," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But today is about celebrating our marriage, so let's continue with the planned toasts." I signaled to my best friend Jessica, who was supposed to give a toast after Emma. The rest of the reception continued with this weird tension hanging in the air. Some guests kept glancing at Emma's stomach, probably trying to figure out if she was really pregnant. Others kept throwing sympathetic looks my way. My parents looked completely uncomfortable. Dad fidgeting with his tie and Mom plastering on that fake smile she uses when she's trying to pretend everything is fine. A few of Alan's relatives were whispering among themselves, clearly confused about what had just happened and why the mood had suddenly shifted. After we cut the cake, Emma came up to me with this innocent look on her face. "Aren't you going to congratulate me?" she asked, like she genuinely couldn't understand why I might be upset. I pulled her aside to a quiet corner near the gift table where no one could overhear us. "Emma, I know that's not your ultrasound," I told her. I pointed out how the name started with a J and how the date looked old. "Why would you do this? Today of all days?" She just laughed it off, flipping her perfectly styled hair over her shoulder. "Don't be ridiculous, Ella. You're just jealous because now I have something you don't." Then she walked away to chat with some of my college friends, probably to tell them more about her pregnancy. Alan found me standing there, still processing what had just happened. He put his arm around me and told me not to let Emma ruin our day. This is about us, he reminded me, not her. He was right, of course. So I put on my best smile and tried to enjoy the rest of my wedding. We danced. We laughed with friends. We thanked everyone for coming. But I couldn't completely shake off that feeling of betrayal. The next morning, I woke up feeling a mix of emotions. I was happy to be married to Alan, but still angry about Emma's stunt. We were leaving for our honeymoon that afternoon, a week in Puerto Rico that we'd been planning for months. As I was packing the last of my things, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Emma told us about the baby. We're organizing a family dinner to celebrate when you get back from your honeymoon. So exciting to be grandparents. I stared at my phone in disbelief. She was really going through with this lie, but I decided not to deal with it right then. I deserved to enjoy my honeymoon without Emma drama. I turned off my phone and focused on the trip ahead. Puerto Rico was amazing. Blue ocean, perfect weather, and a whole week without thinking about Emma. Alan and I explored Old San Juan, went snorkeling, and spent lazy mornings ordering room service. It was exactly what I needed. But reality came crashing back as soon as we landed back home. My mom called almost immediately, asking if we could come to dinner the next day to celebrate Emma's pregnancy. I told her I was tired from traveling and needed to unpack, but she insisted. Family comes first, Ella. Your sister needs our support right now. I hung up feeling that familiar knot in my stomach, the one I always got when dealing with Emma. Alan suggested we just skip the dinner, but I knew that would only make things worse. So the next evening, we reluctantly drove to my parents' house, both of us dreading what was sure to be an uncomfortable experience. When we arrived, the place was decorated with congratulations banners and little baby items. Emma was sitting in the middle of the couch like a queen, accepting congratulations from our extended family. Aunt Martha was even knitting a tiny yellow hat. Emma wasn't showing at all, but she kept rubbing her stomach and talking about morning sickness whenever anyone looked her way. I pulled my mom aside in the kitchen while she was arranging a platter of cheese and crackers. Mom, I don't think Emma is actually pregnant, I told her quietly. The ultrasound she showed at my wedding wasn't even hers. My mom just gave me this disappointed look, the one that always made me feel about 10 years old again. Ella, I know you and your sister have had your differences, but this is taking things too far. Why can't you just be happy for her? I couldn't believe it. After all these years, my mom was still taking Emma's side without question. I tried explaining about the name on the ultrasound and the date, but she just shook her head, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. Emma explained all that. It was her friend Jennifer's ultrasound that she grabbed by mistake. She showed me her real one yesterday. Of course she did. Emma always had an answer for everything. I rejoined the party feeling defeated. Emma smirked at me from across the room, and I knew she could tell Mom hadn't believed me. Throughout dinner, Emma dominated the conversation with talk about baby names and nursery colors. When someone asked about the father, she vaguely mentioned a guy named Thomas who was traveling for work, but very excited about the baby. After dinner, Emma cornered me in the hallway on my way back from the bathroom. Nice try talking to Mom, she whispered, but no one's going to believe you over a pregnant woman. That would make them look like terrible people. She patted my arm condescendingly. Don't worry, I'll let you be the godmother. I just stared at her. Why are you doing this, Emma? What do you gain from pretending to be pregnant? She shrugged, adjusting her blouse. Maybe I just wanted something for myself after you got your perfect wedding and perfect husband and perfect career. Then she rejoined the party, leaving me standing there speechless. The next few weeks were surreal. Emma's pregnancy became the focus of all family conversations. My mom called me daily with updates about Emma's fake doctor appointments or the fake vitamins she was taking. Emma even started a baby registry and regularly posted bump photos on Instagram, though her bump looked suspiciously like she was wearing a maternity top with what looked like a small pillow shoved underneath. I tried to focus on my life with Alan and my job at the hospital. We were settling into our new routine as a married couple, trying to figure out which side of the bed was whose and whose turn it was to do the dishes. But Emma's fake pregnancy was always there, hovering in the background like an annoying fly I couldn't swat away. About a month after the wedding, I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store, the same Jennifer whose name I thought I'd seen on that ultrasound. We weren't close friends, but we'd gone to high school together and occasionally commented on each other's social media posts. I decided to take a chance. Hey Jennifer, how's it going? I asked, trying to sound casual as we both examined the same display of apples. Good, just busy with the baby, she replied. 3 months old now and finally sleeping through the night. My heart raced. You have a 3-month-old? That's wonderful. Do you have pictures? She pulled out her phone and showed me photos of an adorable baby boy with chubby cheeks and bright eyes. I asked a few more questions, establishing that she'd had her ultrasounds at the same clinic where I worked. As we were about to part ways, I took a deep breath and decided to be direct. This might sound weird, but did you by any chance give Emma one of your ultrasound photos recently? Jennifer looked confused. Emma? Your sister? No, why would I do that? I explained about Emma showing an ultrasound at my wedding with a name starting with J. Jennifer's expression changed from confusion to anger. Wait, when was this? About a month ago? When I nodded, she continued. I lost an ultrasound picture around that time. I thought I just misplaced it. Emma visited me a few weeks before that to do my eyebrows. She must have taken it from my purse. I felt a weird mix of validation and disgust. I'm so sorry, Jennifer. Emma's been telling everyone she's pregnant. I knew something was off. Jennifer was pretty upset. She told me Emma had recently tried to friend her on Facebook, but she'd ignored the request because they weren't close. Now it all made sense. Emma was probably worried Jennifer would see posts about her pregnancy and realize what was happening. I left the grocery store with my mind racing. Now I had proof. But what was I supposed to do with it? Confronting Emma directly hadn't worked. My parents didn't believe me. I decided to talk to Alan first and figure out a plan. That night, I told Alan everything. About meeting Jennifer, about the stolen ultrasound, all of it. He suggested we invite Jennifer to the next family dinner so she could expose Emma herself. But that felt too dramatic, like something from a reality TV show. Plus, I didn't want to drag Jennifer any further into my family mess. I need to find more concrete evidence, I said. something mom and dad can't ignore. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The next day, Emma called me asking for a favor. I need you to come with me to my doctor's appointment tomorrow, she said. Mom can't make it, and I'm nervous about the sonogram. I nearly dropped my phone in shock. Emma never asked me for help with anything. This had to be a trap, but it was also my chance to catch her in her lie. So I agreed to pick her up the next morning. When I arrived at her apartment, Emma was dressed in a flowy top that made it impossible to tell if she had a bump or not. She seemed nervous, which was unusual for her. We drove to the clinic in awkward silence. I kept glancing at her, trying to figure out her angle. Was she going to fake an emergency? Pay someone to pretend to be her doctor? At the clinic, Emma checked in with the receptionist. I heard her give her name and appointment time. The receptionist typed something into her computer and then looked confused. I'm sorry, but I don't see an appointment for Emma Wilson today, she said. Emma's face flushed. That's impossible. Check again. It's at 10:30 with Dr. Thomas. The receptionist shook her head. We don't have a Dr. Thomas at this clinic. Are you sure you have the right place? I watched as Emma's confidence crumbled. She fumbled with her phone, pretending to check her calendar. I must have gotten the dates mixed up, she mumbled. Pregnancy brain, you know? As we walked back to the car, I couldn't help myself. So, no appointment, huh? And no Dr. Thomas either. Interesting coincidence that your fake baby daddy is also named Thomas. Emma glared at me. The appointment got canceled, obviously. They just forgot to call me. Cut the crap, Emma, I said, feeling bolder than I ever had with her. I talked to Jennifer. I know you stole her ultrasound. Emma's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know any Jennifer. Really? The Jennifer whose eyebrows you thread? The one with the 3-month-old baby? The one whose ultrasound you showed at my wedding? We reached the car, and Emma suddenly looked deflated. She leaned against the passenger door and crossed her arms. Fine. So what if I'm not pregnant? What are you going to do about it? Tell mom and dad? They'll just think you're jealous. Why, Emma? Why go through all this? What's the point? She looked away. You wouldn't understand. You've always had everything come easy. The good grades, the sports, the career, now the perfect husband. I just wanted something that was mine. Something special that would make everyone pay attention to me for once. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all these years, she was still using the same excuse for treating me terribly. So you thought faking a pregnancy was the answer? Do you know how messed up that is? She just shrugged. It worked, didn't it? Mom calls me every day now. Dad's already talking about setting up a college fund. Everyone cares about me for a change. I felt a mix of pity and frustration. But what's your endgame here? You can't be pregnant forever. People are going to expect a baby eventually. I'll figure it out, she said dismissively. Maybe I'll say I lost it. That would get me even more sympathy. That's when something in me snapped. All those years of trying to please her, of making excuses for her behavior, of hoping she'd change, it all felt so pointless now. I'm done, Emma. I'm done trying to have a relationship with someone who only cares about herself. I'm giving you one chance to come clean to everyone on your own. If you don't, I will. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. No one will believe you. They never do. I drove her home in silence, my mind working through what to do next. I needed more than just Jennifer's word against Emma's. I needed something concrete that my parents couldn't dismiss. Over the next week, I did some research. I talked to a colleague at the hospital who worked in obstetrics. Without mentioning names, I described Emma's behavior and asked for advice. My colleague, Susan, listened carefully. That sounds like pseudocyesis, false pregnancy. Or more likely, she's just lying for attention, Susan said. Either way, she needs help, not an audience. Susan suggested some resources for dealing with family members who exhibit manipulative behaviors. She also mentioned that in real pregnancies, there are certain medical details that are hard to fake. Armed with this information, I decided to set a trap at the next family dinner. I texted my mom asking when Emma's due date was supposed to be, pretending I wanted to plan a baby shower. Mom replied that Emma was due in late January, making her about 14 weeks along now according to what she'd told them. Perfect. At 14 weeks, certain things should be happening if this was a real pregnancy. I did my homework, preparing a list of questions and facts that only someone who was really pregnant, or a nurse like me, would know. The family dinner was at my parents' house again. Emma arrived wearing a maternity top with what looked like a small pillow shoved underneath. She'd clearly been researching too, because she immediately started talking about how the baby was the size of a lemon now, which was actually accurate for 14 weeks. During dinner, I carefully steered the conversation toward pregnancy details. Have you felt the baby move yet, Emma? I asked innocently. She nodded enthusiastically. Yes, all the time. Little flutters. I smiled, knowing I'd caught her. That's strange, since most first-time moms don't feel movement until at least 18 to 20 weeks. You're only 14 weeks, right? Emma's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly. The doctor said I'm very in tune with my body. Some women feel it earlier. And how's your morning sickness now? Second trimester usually brings relief, I continued. Much better, she replied, looking relieved at the easy question. And what about your Doppler results? Heart rate in the normal range? I threw in some medical terminology intentionally. Emma hesitated. Yes, all normal. What was the heart rate? The normal rate, she repeated vaguely, which is... I pressed. I don't remember exactly. 1 something. My dad, who had been quietly eating his lasagna, looked up. Emma, when is your next appointment? Maybe your mother and I could come along. Emma looked panicked for a split second. Oh, it's not for a few weeks. And it's just a routine checkup. Nothing exciting. I decided to go for broke. You know, as a nurse, I find pregnancy so fascinating. The hormonal changes, the development stages. For instance, did you know that at 14 weeks, your HCG levels should be starting to decrease while your placenta takes over hormone production? What did your doctor say about your levels at your last blood draw? Emma stared at me, clearly having no idea how to answer. My mom looked between us, her brow furrowing in confusion. Emma, my mom prompted. What did the doctor say? I don't really remember all the technical stuff, Emma stammered. They said everything looks good. That's the important thing. My dad put down his fork. Emma, is there something you're not telling us? Because Ella seems to know more about your pregnancy than you do. Emma's face flushed red. She stood up suddenly, her fake bump shifting noticeably with the movement. I need some air, she said, and rushed out to the backyard. My mom looked at me accusingly. What are you doing, Ella? Why are you upsetting your sister? I took a deep breath. Mom, Dad, Emma isn't pregnant. She never was. The ultrasound she showed at my wedding was stolen from a woman named Jennifer who has a 3-month-old baby now. I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store and she confirmed it. Emma's been lying to all of us. My parents exchanged looks of disbelief. But why would she do that? My dad asked. For attention, I said simply. The same reason she's been trying to overshadow me our entire lives. My mom started to defend Emma again, but my dad put his hand on hers. I think we need to consider the possibility that Ella is right. Remember how Emma couldn't tell us which hospital she was going to deliver at, and how she never mentions her doctor's name the same way twice? My mom's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted it to be true. A grandchild. I know, Mom, I said gently, but living in this fantasy isn't helping Emma. She needs real help. Just then, the back door opened and Emma came back in. She'd been crying, her mascara smudged under her eyes, and the fake bump was gone completely. Fine, she said, her voice cracking. I'm not pregnant. Are you happy now, Ella? You've ruined everything, just like you always do. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might actually break through my ribcage. I wasn't expecting Emma to confess so quickly after I cornered her with medical facts. The room went completely silent for what felt like forever. Mom sat there with her mouth slightly open. Dad was just staring down at his half-eaten lasagna, and Alan kept looking between Emma and me like he was watching a tennis match. I ruined everything? I finally said. Emma, you faked a pregnancy. You stole someone's ultrasound. You lied to our entire family. And somehow I'm the bad guy? Emma just glared at me, mascara still running down her cheeks. You always have to be the center of attention. Perfect Ella with her perfect job and perfect husband. I just wanted something for myself. Mom finally found her voice. Emma, how could you? Do you have any idea how excited we were about this baby? I've been knitting blankets. Your father started building a crib. Dad looked up, his expression harder than I'd ever seen it. I canceled a fishing trip with Karen to help you paint the nursery next weekend. Emma's face crumpled a bit. I could see she hadn't fully thought through how her lie would affect everyone else. I was going to tell you eventually, she mumbled. I was planning to fake a miscarriage in a few weeks. A miscarriage? Mom gasped. Do you have any idea how insensitive that is to women who've actually gone through that trauma? I watched my mother's face change from shock to disappointment to anger in the span of about 10 seconds. For the first time in our lives, I saw my mom looking at Emma the way she'd always looked at me when I complained about Emma's behavior, like she was seeing something she didn't want to believe. I think you should leave, Dad said quietly to Emma. We all need some time to process this. Emma's head snapped up. You're kicking me out? But what about Ella? She's the one who embarrassed me in front of everyone. Dad pushed his chair back and stood up. Ella exposed a lie, a terrible, hurtful lie that you've been telling for over a month. That's not the same thing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After decades of my parents making excuses for Emma's behavior, they were finally standing up to her. I felt a weird mix of vindication and sadness as I watched Emma grab her purse and storm out. The front door slammed so hard that the family photos on the wall rattled. No one knew what to say after she left. Mom started crying silently. Alan put his arm around me. Dad just sat back down and stared at his plate. I'm sorry, I said eventually. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Mom wiped her eyes with her napkin. No, Ella, we're the ones who should be sorry. We've let Emma get away with treating you badly for years. We always thought it was just normal sister stuff, but it wasn't. Dad nodded in agreement. We should have stepped in a long time ago. Maybe if we had, it wouldn't have come to this. We finished dinner in awkward silence. When Alan and I got home later that night, I collapsed onto our couch, emotionally drained. Well, that was a disaster, I said. Alan sat next to me and pulled me close. Maybe, but it was a necessary one. Your sister can't keep manipulating everyone forever. She needed this wake-up call. The next few days were quiet. No one heard from Emma. Mom called me daily, still processing everything that had happened. She kept asking if there were signs she'd missed over the years, incidents I'd never told them about. I shared a few stories, the trophy throwing, the essay stealing, but I didn't want to dump 30 years of resentment on her all at once. She was already beating herself up enough. About a week after the dinner explosion, I got a text from Emma that just said, "Can we talk? Coffee at Riley's Cafe tomorrow at 3? I showed it to Alan, who immediately said I shouldn't go. She's just going to manipulate you again, he warned. Nothing good will come from it. He was probably right, but I decided to go anyway. Some small part of me still hoped for that sisterly relationship I'd always wanted. I told myself this would be the absolute last chance. One more disappointment, and I was done for good. When I arrived at the cafe the next day, Emma was already there, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of coffee on the table. She looked different somehow, less polished than usual. Her hair was in a simple ponytail instead of her usual perfect blowout, and she wasn't wearing much makeup. Hey, I said, sliding into the booth across from her. You wanted to talk? Emma pushed one of the coffee cups toward me. I got you a caramel latte. You still like those, right? I nodded, surprised she remembered. Thanks. We sat in awkward silence for a minute or two. I wasn't going to make this easy for her. Finally, Emma took a deep breath. So, I've been seeing a therapist, she said, staring down at her coffee. Just 2 sessions so far, but it's been eye-opening. That was literally the last thing I expected her to say. A therapist? Since when? Since Dad told me I couldn't come back home until I got help. She looked up at me. He was
pretty serious about it. I tried to hide my shock. My parents had always been so passive when it came to Emma's behavior. This was a major change. Anyway, Emma continued, my therapist thinks I might have some kind of complex about you. She says I've been competing with you our whole life because I never felt good enough. I didn't know how to respond to that. Part of me wanted to say duh, but I bit my tongue. I'm not saying it's an excuse, Emma added quickly. I know I've been awful to you. The pregnancy thing was just the latest in a long line of terrible things I've done. Why did you do it? I asked. I mean, I get wanting attention, but faking a pregnancy is pretty extreme. Emma sighed. Honestly, when I saw how happy everyone was at your wedding, I just snapped. I wanted that same happiness directed at me, and once I started the lie, I couldn't figure out how to stop it without looking like a complete psycho.
So you were just going to pretend to lose the baby? That was your exit strategy? She nodded, looking ashamed. Like I said, I know it's messed up. My therapist had a field day with that one. I sipped my latte, trying to process everything. So what happens now? I don't know, Emma admitted. I'm trying to work on myself. I'm staying with my friend Quinn until I can face Mom and Dad again. They're pretty devastated. They are, I confirmed. Mom keeps asking if there were warning signs she missed. Emma winced. There were plenty if anyone had been paying attention. She paused, then looked directly at me. I am sorry, Ella. For everything. Not just the pregnancy lie, but for all of it. The trophy, the essay, ruining your wedding day. I've been a terrible sister. It was the most genuine apology I'd ever heard from her. Still, I wasn't ready to just forgive and forget. I appreciate you saying that, I said carefully. But Emma, you've hurt me so many times. Words only go so far. I know, she said quietly. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. Or ever, really. But I'm hoping maybe we can start over somehow. I thought about all the times I'd wished for a real relationship with my sister. All the times I'd extended an olive branch only to have it snapped in half. Did I really want to set myself up for more disappointment? I think I need time, I said eventually. I'm glad you're getting help, but I need to protect myself too. Emma nodded. That's fair. More than fair, actually. We finished our coffees and parted ways. No hugs, no promises, just a simple goodbye. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter somehow, like I'd put down a heavy backpack I didn't know I was carrying. Over the next few months, things slowly started to change. Emma continued with therapy, twice a week according to Mom. She moved back home temporarily but was looking for her own apartment. She even sent a handwritten apology letter to Jennifer about stealing the ultrasound photo, along with a gift card for baby supplies. Jennifer texted me about it, clearly shocked by the gesture. Emma and I established a cautious relationship. Not close, but not hostile either. We'd text occasionally, mostly about neutral topics like new Netflix shows or restaurant recommendations. She came over for dinner once, and it went okay. She even asked Alan about his job, which was a first. The biggest surprise came about 6 months after the fake pregnancy revelation. My parents invited us over for Sunday dinner, and when we arrived, I noticed something different about the living room. All the family photos had been rearranged. Where there used to be mostly pictures of Emma, there was now an equal number of photos of me, my graduation, my wedding, even some childhood pictures I'd forgotten existed. Your mother found these in the attic, Dad explained when he saw me looking at them. We realized we hadn't displayed them properly before. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. During dinner, my mom actually asked about my work at the hospital, showing interest in my career in a way she never had before. Dad mentioned he was thinking about taking Alan fishing sometime. Emma sat quietly through most of the conversation, but didn't try to redirect attention to herself. After dinner, Emma asked if I wanted to see her new apartment. I agreed, and Alan said he'd stay behind to help Dad with some computer issue. It was the first time Emma and I had been alone together since the coffee shop meeting. Her new place was small but neat. No fake baby bump in sight, no ultrasound photos on the fridge, just a normal apartment for a single woman in her 30s. It's nice, I said, looking around. I like the paint color. Emma smiled slightly. Thanks. I'm trying to be more independent. My therapist says I need to build my own life instead of trying to copy yours or get attention from Mom and Dad. I nodded. That makes sense. I got a new job too, she added. Still doing eyebrows, but at a bigger salon. Better pay, better hours. That's great, I said, and I meant it. I wanted Emma to be successful in her own right. As I was getting ready to leave, Emma handed me a small gift bag. It's nothing big, she said quickly. Just something I saw that made me think of you. Inside was a simple silver photo frame. The picture inside was one I'd never seen before. Me at about 7 years old, holding a cheerleading trophy with the biggest smile on my face. Where did you get this? I asked, genuinely surprised. Mom had it in an old album. It was taken right before she didn't need to finish the sentence. Right before she threw my trophy out the window. Thanks, I said quietly. This means a lot. I'm not saying everything is perfect now. Emma still has her moments of selfishness, and I still find myself bracing for the worst sometimes. My parents are trying harder to be fair, but old habits die hard. Sometimes Mom still makes excuses for Emma's smaller behaviors, but things are better, different. We're all trying in our own ways. Emma's still in therapy. I'm learning to set boundaries. My parents are recognizing their role in enabling Emma's behavior for so many years. Last week, Emma texted me about a pottery class she signed up for, asking if I wanted to join. I remembered our sister days from before the wedding, how she dominated every conversation, how everything had to be about her. But I also remembered how much I'd always wanted a real relationship with my sister. So I said yes. Maybe this time, with all of us doing the work, things will be different. Maybe we'll never be best friends, but we might finally figure out how to be sisters. Real ones, not just in name. I don't know what the future holds for me and Emma, but for the first time in 30 years, I'm cautiously optimistic. And that's something I never thought I'd feel.